before you buy a home computer.
Electronic games being heralded by folks in the trade as this year's holiday bestseller.
Children have skipped school or stolen money to play the games.
I'll be looking at the electronic game craze.
And at the end of the tape, I'll be back to tell you how to safeguard your computer.
Hello! I haven't used this profile in a while, so things can keep breaking. Hello! Welcome to Streamer News. This one's kind of a little impromptu. We've been on a brief hiatus from Streamer News. I just had a lot to work on and work with, and there honestly hasn't been a lot to talk about, and I've been working on building my stream theory show and some other stuff. We got some products and some things to talk about today. So I wanted to do a show running on very little sleep and some jank, like our AC's out. So yay, it's pretty toasty here in the studio, but that's not the point. But before we get into anything, I want to show you the new addition to the studio because I'm so excited. So you're not going to be able to see this very well. It's more suited for the primary desk camera angle, but I can still show you. We switch to this camera view. Everything looks normal. That, if I just focus here so you can see it, I have a Stream Professor neon sign. Now, it's not real neon like my PlayStation sign. It is LED, but it still has the same glow and gradient that I was going for, and a lot cheaper. And oh boy, it is awesome. Like I said, it'll look a lot better in the main desk webcam setup regardless. But it is sick! I'm so stoked. We're gonna have a lot more neon and stuff going on in here as I finally as we bridge towards, I guess, the towards the end of the year here. Like, we started out the start of the year obviously with me building the studio and getting it functional and me able to like make videos and stuff, but there's a lot of elements of it that I haven't finished, that I haven't really worked on or whatever, that I want to finish getting towards my original goals for the studio, and in terms of the aesthetic, the vibes, and all of that. And so as we wrap up the year, I think we'll see some pretty neat, like, just little improvements here and there to get towards the arcade / video rental store aesthetic that I'm going for. So I'm pretty excited in terms of housekeeping and stuff for what's going on. That is not the transition I expected, but that is fine nonetheless. Up on the channel since our last stream, by the way, we did have Stream Theory this Tuesday. It is a show I'm running primarily on Twitch right now, but it might be multi-streamed soon. Those of you who know what's going on at the moment will know. But it is a show that features Stream Critique, which you all have requested come back. Stream Critique will be edited out and still posted here to YouTube just a little later. But then it has some other segments and some awesome stuff, and I'm still working on finishing the format. But having a lot of fun with building that show format as well. We've been rolling my How to Build a Stream Show series here. The final part comes out Monday, I believe, and then that'll be done. And then we had a new NZXT USB microphone come out. We got some more OBS scripts video. My new audio interface at my main desk setup that isn't the GoXLR. Having a lot of fun learning that. And yeah, that's the main stuff there. I've been doing another big push here on my HoloQuest YouTube channel, which is about nostalgia, Pokemon TCG openings, things like that. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, go give it a subscribe. I'd like to get it to 1,000 subscribers soon. But do not subscribe if you're not interested in it, because obviously that doesn't help me. So very particular audience members of you out there. But if you enjoy this kind of thing, definitely go check that out, because I'm putting in a lot of work there. We do stream some of these openings on Twitch as well, but I also make dedicated videos and things like that. And I'm working on bringing on a couple editors to kind of scale up production for this channel, because it's something I want to work on, especially as we get the retro room going and stuff, that kind of thing. But I think that's really all the housekeeping we have for today. So I guess we will just jump right into the topics. And speaking of topics, someone in Twitch chat just asked thoughts on the community tab requirement update. I was not aware of one. Let's find this out. Did they change it? Are you talking about like the original change to it that they made forever ago, or did they just recently update it? Learn about community posts. Creators with over 1,000. Yeah. That was done forever ago. Like, I'm fine with it. I think it's kind of... So 1,000 subscribers overall is not that many, and especially if you're moving towards doing YouTube as a career or a full-time job. By the way, this is what I'm looking at. As a career or full-time job or whatever, like, you're going to need a lot more than 1,000 subscribers to really do a whole lot with it. And so limiting certain features to 1,000 subscribers, like monetization or community tab or whatever, like, I have no real problem with. It's stories requiring 10,000 subscribers that makes no sense to me. Available for 500 plus subs after October 2021 instead of 1,000? Where did you see that? That's not here. Oh, yep. 1 day ago. I found it. Starting October 12th, instead of 1,000 subscribers, you'll need more than 500. Huh. Say what? I didn't see this at all. Okay. I'm totally fine with that. I was actually just complaining about how, like, frustrating it is for some of this stuff to, like, be limited. Like, so... my thing here is I do think there needs to be a threshold for feature availability in terms of like partnership and things like that, because I was around in pre 2015, 2016 when YouTube became just a cesspool of ridiculous like garbage content and money chasing and things like that, because they opened the floodgates and all sorts of malicious and spam channels just kind of took over the site. It was a bad place. I had been on YouTube already at that point for quite a few number of years and worked for an MCN where we had plenty of those channels in our MCN making money that we had to clean out. YouTube became a very bad place when there were no rules. So I firmly was backing the push that they needed to tighten things up, clean things up, add requirements, all that. Totally fine with that in that regard. But I think their choice of what they use was a little weird. And I understand the point of it. Stories are harder to moderate, and so they don't want people abusing them. And they also have to really determine if your channel is for kids or not, because stories aren't allowed for that. And so I think they have a delay on subscribers so that they can really get a gauge for if that's what your channel is about or not. And community tab posts can, of course, be abused to send people to malicious websites, ad sites, whatever, and so they want to restrict that as well. But both stories and community tab posts are something that primarily benefit new channels that are growing, not channels that are already established. Community tabs still kind of benefits bigger channels just to reach your audience, but overall, like, these are tools you would use to grow your channel, less so once you're already established. And so there's a little bit of a conflict of value there in limiting it to channels that have already grown, because they don't necessarily need it as much, whereas it could be very useful for growing as a small channel. Thankfully, they don't restrict shorts, because that would be another limitation that just didn't make sense, but I'm totally in favor of them reducing the subscriber count to 500 for this. I think that's totally attainable. You don't really need it before that, probably. I'm fine with that. Like, even on my HoloQuest channel, which is 700 whatever subscribers, like, I still have the old discussion tab from old school YouTube like 10 years ago. Other people can comment there. I can comment here. Hey, this isn't the community tab. And the difference in functionality here is that this is only on the channel. It's like back in the MySpace days when you wrote on someone's wall or whatever. You'd have to go to this channel and then go to the discussion page to see this. Most people don't know it exists because for most channels it doesn't exist anymore. You had to have had a channel when this existed and not a new channel, and then still not reach the subscriber count, because this was just a random side channel that I never built up until recently. And so that's why it's there. So there have been a couple of times when I've thought, hey, here's a funny meme I want to post to my community tab for this HoloQuest channel. Or, hey, I want to just repeat a message that people may not have seen. But it doesn't really limit anything just yet. So personally, I'm a fan of this change. I think it will be helpful and is fine, but isn't super significant either way. Anyone remember Reply Girls? Yeah, Reply videos. So the funny thing is, with YouTube Shorts now, where you can like clip out parts of a video and make a short about it, you effectively have Reply videos again, but there's no section attached to the video. And this is what frustrates me about the new clips feature as well, is there's no way to like be watching a video and then see clips or shorts or whatever made with regard to that video. And I think that's really weird. And a limiting factor of the clips compared to Twitch clips is you can't easily go find them. It's my frustration there. Catching up on chat real quick before we get back into the normal topics. Do you have to use Twitter to ask him questions? No, I don't check Twitter during my shows. What makes stories harder to moderate? Would it not be the same as regular videos or shorts? I mean, the fleeting nature of it, and just like you can post them more back to back. Like it would basically be more like a short. I think it's more, they probably, I would imagine they don't have all the same systems in place due to where it posts, and like you're less like, so the way YouTube moderation works is they have lots of automated filters, scanning content, checking for things and whatever. And then they do have real people that check, you know, spot check and things like that. But a lot of things that just kind of get detected and whatever comes down to user reports. Like even just one user sometimes is enough to catch a red flag piece of content and get a person or even a rescan from the bot to come detect it and then pull it in for future review. Stories are already limited in how you can see them, who can see them, and where you can see them, that you're much less likely to see reports across the board on that kind of stuff. I could be talking out of my butt, like it could not be any more difficult to moderate for them, but that's the only real excuse I can come up with, the ability to post them so frequently, because you don't really, there's no notifications for stories, so, which is another reason there'd be less user reports. And so there's no real limit to how many you can post, and you can just keep posting them. And they're images. You can do images, which you can't do on videos or shorts. You can do it on community posts. So there's all these factors to where you could really just spam it hard that you can't effectively do with videos or shorts or anything else without making it more obvious or hurting your channel in some way. We covered the Twitch hate raid yet already? No, we just started. So, getting back in today's topics. I guess that was the first topic since we hadn't gotten into the topics yet. So thank you. I already forgot the name because everything scrolled away. So he's not going to do YouTube comments again. You seem to really confuse Mr. No Skills how YouTube chat works. I'm responding to chat right now, buddy. Anyway, thank you to whoever brought this up to lead us in on our first topic. This was exciting. I completely missed this, so I'm glad you brought it up. That dropped yesterday. So, yeah, no, Mr. Kronos, thank you very much. You didn't destroy anything. Like, this is something I would have 100% wanted to talk about during the stream and totally missed, so I'm glad we got it in. In non-YouTube related news, Tom Buck has confirmed through a friend that the Shure MV7 is now shipping with newer windscreens, because one of the big limiting factor of the Shure MV7 compared to the Shure SM7B and things like that was it had a real plosives problem. It had a very high quality mic, not as good as the SM7B, whatever, but like the big detractor was if you were right up on it, the pop screen, the wind filter just didn't really seem to do anything. Your plosives just went right through to it. And that was really frustrating and really jarring because the SM7B comes with such a good pop filter by default. And so the solution everyone recommended was to put the SM7B windscreen on the MV7. And you can buy them separate for like $15. You can buy custom ones like this, etc. Well, it appears that the MV7 is now shipping with an improved windscreen to make it better, which is exciting. Obviously, he's making a joke here and that he hasn't done a scientific test himself, and I don't have a new one, so, But I'm excited that they listened to that feedback and are replacing in the new units. That is always a good thing to see. Also, bit of news from myself. Elgato's Camera Hub for the Elgato Facecam has received an update. This isn't a huge update, but it is the first update since launch. It's got a firmware update fix for shutter speeds getting reset every time you reboot or replugged it or whatever for some reason. You now get a more clear display about your white balance and shutter speed here, which is really nice. I like that they show this to you. So obviously it's in the settings. If you're using manual settings, but if you're using auto settings, the fact that it shows you now, it did for ISO before, but not white balance or shutter speed. The fact that it shows you the setting you're at, gives you the ability to easily recreate your auto settings in manual settings as a starting place. So this is a big frustration that we run into with Logitech webcams, for example, and part of this is due to the way that their white balance works. It's completely incompetent and hard to work with, but you set like a Logitech C920 or Brio or whatever to auto settings, and then you can't recreate that when you kick it back to manual. Like, it immediately, when you click the manual, you have different settings and you can't match it back because you're not given the settings that you were set to. And often, as with the white balance, you're set to a setting that you quite literally can't achieve with the manual settings due to there only being one white balance slider. Now, Elgato's camera only has one white balance slider as well. That's something I criticized it for. But the fact that they give you these settings so you are informed of where your settings are at, so you can then go to manual and tweak it from there, is very, very exciting. They also added a mirror preview option and a new message that indicates when your camera is being occupied by Windows Camera or Zoom or something like that, as well as some bug fixes and the like. Let's talk about BEACN. BEACN is a product, well, not a product, a company that makes products. The company is formed by former GoXLR staff and things like that, and they have been putting out teasers for a couple different products. We saw and talked about previously the BEACN microphone, which is a USB dynamic microphone, has some crazy features like 32-bit float, supposedly, and blah, blah, blah. But they also have other products going out, and I have alluded to this multiple times, but I obviously could not share anything that they don't make public yet. And for everyone who keeps asking in the chat, I don't have my hands on them yet. And even if I do, until whatever NDA I will, or embargo I inevitably have to agree to is up, I won't be able to talk about it until time. Like, that's how this works. So, sorry, I can't give you an inside scoop more than what they post publicly, but I can give you an analysis of what they post publicly here. So, they have actually teased now two different kinds of mixers. This is the BEACN Mix, and then the BEACN Mix Create, which are actually two different products based on the same idea. So the BEACN microphone, again, was a USB dynamic microphone. It has a built-in DSP that is supposed to be really powerful, have lots of cool stuff, including like dynamic noise suppression, which is really cool, and should obviously have the normal compression, EQ, etc. But all of that built into a dynamic mic instead of a condenser mic is really freaking appealing. And again, compared to the Elgato Wave, this is a DSP built into the microphone itself, which will include, it will run the processing and everything on the microphone itself. The Mix is a little different. It is kind of a mixer. I struggle to call it a mixer because based on what we have seen, you can kind of see here, there's probably not going to be audio inputs based on what we're looking at. It's more of a controller. Now, to be fair, they don't call it a mixer. It's the BEACN Mix, and it's mixing simplicity, but you can glean from what they're saying here. It's not an audio interface, it's an audio controller. It's completely hardware agnostic. It has a USB-C connection, and that's it. It's an endpoint for Windows. So it's kind of akin to the PC Panel or the PC Panel Pro. However, having been using the PC Panel Pro, or trying to use it off and on for a little bit, and not really getting any use out of it because I don't find it to be super useful, this is going to do a lot more. So as they have said, it is completely hardware agnostic. You can add any devices that you have connected to your system to this theoretically and control it, which means if you're using USB mics, their USB mic, other USB mics, you can add all this stuff to this mixer here. And from what we can tell, you have little control screens to indicate what you're controlling with these knobs. Now, we can assume based on functionality of other devices, these knobs will turn and click and all of that. We don't have a view of what these settings are just yet, but you can see here we get nice feedback, and it looks like menus of different settings and details about your audio devices that you can control. And that one is muted, which to me indicates, okay, you can tap the knob and mute it. But I think it does a little bit more than that, especially when we get to the second product, which is a completely, you know, an upgraded version called the BEACN Mix Create. And that is where you get some interesting stuff. You get knob paging, which means you have these little page buttons here, which allow you to go through multiple pages, which expands the device and control capability, advanced routing, additional mute options, and submixes. So this has been the biggest complaint about the GoXLR is a lack of submix. So this is a little bit more than the PC panel where you just control audio like program volume in Windows. You can actually build a mix here. If it has submixes, you can build multiple mixes here and actually like build a stream mix of the devices plugged into your system. So you can't, since they have already stated that you plug it in with USB-C and it's not an audio interface itself, you can't actually plug, you know, you can't plug your audio hardware into it. But if you already have a USB mic, multiple USB mics, an audio interface, other, you know, system sound and hardware devices running into your system, theoretically, based on their claims here, you can just add all to this and make an actual mix that you can monitor and play back in your stream with the submix on the Create version all in here, which is really cool. So I am excited by that. So you could see the BEACN Mix being more like the PC panel. This is more of just a general kind of Windows controller, kind of, since there's no submixes. But this one's definitely more like an actual mixer, just the inputs are taken in through other hardware, and you have the submixes that you can have for your monitoring, for your stream mix, and whatever. It also says submixes without a specified number, so that appeals to me, because the fact that they didn't specify it kind of indicates to me that there might be the possibility for more than two. I don't know. There could not be, but I would like to believe that there could be more than two. So I am excited for these products. I think they're going to kind of confuse some people at first because people, even in chat right now, like I have seen people being like, so this is the new GoXLR, right? And it's trying to be something very different, but also just as useful for people than the GoXLR. Because the issue with things like the GoXLR, the Wave XLR, you know, the AverMedia Livestreamer Nexus, is these are only good buys if you absolutely hate what you have, if there's a killer feature that you absolutely just have to swap what you have for, or you don't already have audio hardware. The BEACN Mix and Mix Create are things that you can just combine with what you already have to add additional features. So if you already have a high quality audio interface or even a fancy headphone DAC, so that's a big question I get all the time is how do I use my fancy headphone DAC and amp with the GoXLR? And the answer is it's complicated. You can do that here. You can use all this other hardware that you already have or want to get that perhaps has a specific feature that an otherwise all-in-one solution doesn't have, and just slap this on your desk to control everything. And the controls seem to be pretty neat. We'll see. I have personally always been a fan of sliders and faders rather than knobs. These knobs are at least decently spaced out, unlike the PC panel, so I kind of like that. We're only getting kind of like deliberately crafted to be hard to read anything on it products or buttons and screen icons to really tell what's happening here. But I think once we are getting more direct visuals and I can get my hands on it and we can talk about it and stuff, I think we're going to see some cool stuff from it. So I get asked about this all the time. Here are my thoughts so far based on what I can talk about publicly. I am excited. Like I said, I truly do believe there will be some confusion because people will have expectations, but I do believe this will be a great product for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people who get out of that mindset of I need a GoXLR alternative will actually come to appreciate this. And otherwise, like honestly, I think this kind of shows the difference of like you can get their USB mic with this and have effectively the GoXLR, but you have easier routing and things like that. And someone pointed out in the Twitch chat, they did actually post a screenshot of the software. I forgot about that. There's them making it. A lot of people were claiming they were OEMing this from like other people. No, I can confirm they are making this stuff themselves. I thought they posted a screenshot of the software. Here you can see the buttons and the knobs. I thought they posted something. Maybe it wasn't on Twitter. Regardless, I think I can confidently say with how much they are posting now that we are rapidly approaching the point where we're going to get a lot of information moving forward. So I am very much looking forward to it. And they did, oh yeah, Slashy's pointing out they posted a screenshot of the software in my Discord. One of the members of the BEACN team is actually a prominent member of my Discord server and has been sharing some good information over in the server. So if you want kind of an inside scoop, hit us up at eposvox.gg/discord. They've been answering questions, fielding some skepticism and some criticism as well. And so I applaud them for being so involved in the community. You guys can check out our Discord server if you want some good information. By the way, we did have some super chats that I wanted to acknowledge. I apologize for taking so long to get between them. I wanted to go ahead and get this BEACN subject out of the way, so you can consider this our ad break for today rather than a traditional ad break. First up, we have one from Chris Fratz, if it shows up here. I just want to say thank you for doing all that you do. I ran my first stream on Wednesday, and while it's basic, I'm happy to how it went. I hope to make it better in the future. Thank you so much for your support and for the super chat. Thank you for watching today's stream. That is my biggest goal. Like, I want people to feel confident enough to just launch a stream, even if it's not amazing, even if it's not super pro. Just start streaming. Just learn, follow my videos to get confident enough with either the gear or the software, OBS, what have you, enough to just launch your own stream. And then from there, you can build it and make it amazing. But you're never going to get there if you don't start streaming. And that's what I hope to get people doing, and then show you some advanced tricks along the way. And then we also had a super chat from Rach's Live. Thank you for everything you do. No, you're breathtaking. Then we have Quantum joining our channel member, and they will get early access to videos and behind-the-scenes content over on YouTube. Or over on our Discord. From YouTube. You know what I'm saying. Okay. So that was the BEACN subject. That was probably the main one that people are asking about for today's stream. There's always that one subject that they're just like, hey, why haven't you talked about this yet? So that was it. Are you going to do a hands-on review when you get it? Of course. I'll probably have reviews. I'll probably have, suggested hardware to go with it. I'll probably have direct comparisons to the now growing competition of the Wave XLR, the Nexus, the whatever else. There's new stuff I can't talk about either. And we'll probably make some tutorials on how to actually use it. Yes, I will be covering the mic as well as the mixers, assuming I can get my hands on them, as I am excited for both. Like, honestly, I truly believe that if the USB mic delivers what they have suggested and what I am hoping for, that I think it will start to change the narrative a lot more about USB mics. And I think that narrative has already been changing over the years as we get better and better USB mics, and we've gotten some good USB dynamic mics like the MV7. There's kind of the Q9U, but that one was a flop. But I think having the not the VSDs, it's not VSDs, it's a DSP hardware processing built in, and if they can pull off all the cool tricks with it that they want to, I think that will really settle the score, because I think there are a lot of people who just truly believe that USB mics can never be good, and that's not true. But we may be paying a high price for it. We shall see. I don't think we have pricing available on any of these devices yet. So, yeah. What do you think of the Sony ZV-E10, good sir? I talked about this when they announced it a little while back. It looks very exciting, so I very much want a ZV-1. I've covered it multiple times on the channel, especially for my overhead view, which is currently a Panasonic G7, which has no usable autofocus and gets really noisy in certain scenarios because it's a Micro Four Thirds. The ZV-1 looked phenomenal, especially for doing my Pokemon openings where I'm holding up the cards and everything, and having seen a creator who now uses that for their overhead camera, it's perfect. The ZV-E10 is basically the ZV-1 combined with the A6400. It's the same sensor as the A6400, but with all the advanced autofocus stuff for the ZV-1, and then a smaller body than the A6400, squished together. And I really want it. I can't justify buying another camera right now, so once I get my lens fixed, which it's now Friday, and I forgot to call the repair center, so I may have to do that next week. I had a G-Master lens die. We talked about it on Stream Theory. So currently my main desktop webcam I use over at my main desk is completely out of commission because a $1,400 lens just stopped working, because electronic lenses turn to bricks when they stop working, because what a stupid design decision. So my current extra A6400 is currently occupied replacing that webcam. But once it's back, I'll probably just use the A6400 overhead. But hey, you do Pokemon openings too? Yes, over on Twitch and over on my side channel called Stream Theory, or not Stream Theory, HoloQuest. I am opening too many things at once here. There we go, HoloQuest, YouTube channel. I posted in the chat. Go sub to that if you like nostalgia, Pokemon openings, etc. Paste. There we go. All right, moving on from the BEACN topics, let's talk about a couple other things as we approach the end of the show here. I actually have quite a few more topics to talk about here. All right, first and foremost, someone has created the obvious, but it's finally confirmed that a basic CF Express to NVMe adapter will actually let you use NVMe drives on the Xbox Series S and X as consumer storage. I'm surprised it took this long to really convert it, but I'm glad that we have. Obviously, they could lock it down at any point on a software level, but I really hope that we don't, because while most users won't want this giant stick of gum that could break off sticking out of the back of their Xbox, having that user choice to use cheaper SSDs and the like is going to be really cool. So super stoked for that. Not much more to say than that. Also, Nvidia has released an update to Studio Broadcast, or Broadcast Studio, or whatever, Nvidia Broadcast. Specifically here, they are asking for help getting new samples of stuff you want filtered out through the filtering. Let me pull up here, though. I do have a list of what they actually updated in the app, and I forgot to write. I was going to make a video on it, and honestly, it didn't end up being worth it. They now support emotive speech with noise removal. So if you speak loudly and quickly or have high-pitched voices, that got confused before, especially with the baby cry profile where they were trying to filter out baby cries. That is now supported more. They use 40 to 50% less VRAM than before, which is wild, and that applies to both video and audio effects. So especially if you're running bigger games or you have lower VRAM counts or you're running DX12 games, that is a lovely improvement. They now support pro cameras and virtual cameras, so you're no longer limited to UVC camera or, webcams and stuff. I'm so stoked for that. I will be testing that soon because that's freaking awesome. And now you can use MKV files with H.264 and H.265 HEVC for your video backgrounds, which is really awesome. Amazon is now launching their own branded TVs as the Fire TV Omni series and 4 series, which of course has Amazon Fire built in. Previously, they just partnered with other companies. Like the TVs I have in the background here are just Insignia TVs that I got super cheap. They're really crappy, like 720p ones that don't run very well, but they're Amazon Fire TVs because they run primarily on the Amazon Fire software. Well, it looks like they're no longer just, partnering with companies, and instead they are launching their own TV line to keep things more under control and whatever. So there is that as well. I don't really have much to say about it. These aren't going to be amazing TVs, like, realistically. Not going to be great, but they're TVs regardless. Didn't I just cover that? Why did I have that open twice? Thanks, Chrome. All right, so here's the other kind of big topic for today that I wanted to mention. I want to catch up on chat real quick. Okay, yeah. Just making sure. I always try to respond to you all in between topics if I can, but also there's delays over on YouTube and things like that. Shout out to the Lime Runner for the Twitch raid. So, Twitch is suing a couple people over the hate raid scenario. So, I'm going to say, and this isn't going to be the shared stance, nor a popular one. I'm going to say that this is part of the reason for Twitch's silence on this issue. Amusingly enough, we're just getting raided on Twitch right now. Both Lime Runner and X2 Shoes here with a raid. Okay, hello. Don't usually get 2 raids in one day, so thank you so much. Hope you all are having a great start to your weekend here. We are wrapping up streamer news, talking about things going on in the streaming space, and specifically related to raiding. We're a love raid, not a hate raid. Yeah, exactly. Specifically related to raiding, Twitch is suing users over hate raids. So the big issue that has come up regarding the hate raid scenario, which if you don't even know what that is, there is a phenomenon that's been going on for a couple months here on Twitch. Obviously, it's been going on overall longer and longer, but it is specifically been getting worse and worse and worse over the last couple months here on Twitch. is a scenario where people will make a bunch of bot accounts, give them like Nazi imagery or racist names or whatever, and go raid a bunch of channels and spam their chat with hateful messages that are cloaked with alternative characters that become like, there's videos out there of you could use scripted bots to try to ban every alternative of a singular word, and like per word per like language classification, so just Latin-based languages per word would take 76 days to ban all alternative of words, which is ridiculous. So then you stack up words and the tools available aren't enough to stop it. And so this has been going on and creators are being harassed. And obviously there are things you could do. Like I have a button on my Stream Deck right now. If I get hate rated, that runs an ad, it locks down chat to sub only, it clears the chat, turns off alerts, all of those things. But you can't just, like, some streamers are being like hit to where literally from the second they go live until they go offline a few hours later, they are, the entire time they are live, they are being hit with this. And you can't just maintain a stream where you are locked down to sub only mode and turning off alerts and raids and things like that, because these are the growth features on Twitch. These are the discovery and growth features. You can't just expect people to get rid of them and not use them moving forward. And so there's been this whole movement. There was the day off Twitch little boycott thing. There are all sorts of things going on to try to encourage Twitch to do better, because their responses to this have not been great. Admittedly, they gave more of a response than they did to like the requests for trans tags and stuff like that. But overall, they just keep saying, they're like, we swear, guys, we're working on it, but we can't talk about it. I think the reason that they haven't been able to talk about it is because they have been tied up with whatever legal stuff they have going on here. Because keep in mind, you don't get articles about Twitch or any big company suing anyone based purely on a singular, like, oh, we're doing it, it's live, tell the world. Like, there is a lot of legal stuff going on in the background that you can't talk about for a while. And while it may seem silly, and I think this is why people might disagree with me, like, you may think that you have, like, you can disconnect the talk about the tools and the things they're doing on the back end to fight it that are separate from the legal proceedings. They could be very intertwined. And so this could very much be the reason that all they've been able to say publicly is, for the most part, like, they have had some specifics, but overall it's mostly been, we can't really tell what we're doing yet. My biggest criticism was that their repeat, like, claims that if they talk about the, like, my criticism of their response is that if they talk about, if they claim, sorry, my words are, I'm trying to keep up with chat because chat is way more popping than usual. I'm trying to keep up with chat and talk at the same time, which is tough. My criticism was that if they were claiming that they could not talk about the tools or the steps that they're implementing to try to stop the hate raids, because that would allow the hate raids to keep up with them. Kind of like how anti-hacking stuff in games, like, you can't give a whole lot of details because people would just find ways around it. That if that's the method that they're going into for stopping hate raids, then the second they roll out the tools, they'll end up in the same spot, because the second they find out how they're getting banned, they're going to find workarounds anyway. So that particular angle hasn't made a whole lot of sense to me. So this might make more sense than, oh, we can't talk about it because that would just give them a way to work around it. Like, I hope that makes sense. Like, I feel like this is a more plausible explanation than them just not wanting people to work around them. So we'll see. We'll see if this suit even goes anywhere, because according to this, the two people that they have identified so far are in other countries, are in the Netherlands and Austria, which is not where Twitch is based. It's very difficult to get those kinds of lawsuits, from what I understand of my limited legal understanding. It is very difficult to pose these kinds of lawsuits internationally like this. But their actual objective here isn't necessarily, I mean, obviously they want to shut it down, but they specifically say here, we hope this complaint, oh, I'm not in the split screen view. We hope this complaint will shed light on the identity of the individuals behind this attack and the tools that they exploit, dissuading them from taking similar behavior. So effectively, They just want to expose these people. They have figured out two of the biggest people behind this who are running a lot of the bot tools and bot accounts, because you can literally just go to websites and like buy these bots to go bot raid someone. So this is kind of how piracy measures and things like that kind of go out. It's like, we can't necessarily go sue you, especially when you're in another country, but we can expose who you are and make it much more difficult for you to remain anonymous and things like that. So they haven't just released their personal identity yet, but they have... You know, they're taking the steps here and hoping the lawsuit would allow them to basically expose these people and expose the tools. And if they can expose the tools, they can do better to work against it. So I do think this has merit. I do think this is a more plausible explanation for why they haven't been able to say much. I do think this also, however, exposes the dire situation that this has been. Like, while 69% hype train, while there have been specific... like feature requests that many of us in the community have made in terms of additional tools or enhancements to tools that Twitch can do to help make managing hate raids better. And a lot of those to me are very tangible. Like, I do think they can implement those. I think it exposes a super dire situation where Twitch like already knows how they're creating the bot accounts or already knows how this is happening, and they can't directly stop that. And so in order to keep it from happening, their step is literally to expose the tools themselves and hope to find, and the people making them, and hope to find a way to dissuade, you know, to make their lives more difficult so that they don't keep doing this thing, which is really fascinating to me, because that means that it's a worse situation than we realize, I think, in terms of like the Wakabot scenario. So pretty crazy. Since I give shout outs to channel members and stuff, I want to give a couple shout outs here. We got a tier 1 resub from Tag Slays. We got a 1 month tier 1 sub from Lucky Lee UK. We got 100 bits from Imicat. And we got a 3 month tier 1 sub from Rootlid. Thank you very much. So yeah, I breaking this down, I really feel this is going to be a longer term mess than many people are hoping. And that is unfortunate, and that will really hurt Twitch. I don't think they would make a big legal dispute about this unless that was one of their, like, unless this was a really necessary step for them. Like, I feel like, I don't know how to explain this in a way that, like, I'm not just repeating myself. How do I explain this? From what I understand, and I could be overinflating the value of a legal complaint like this, but from what I understand and from my perspective here, I don't think Twitch would go through the effort, the cost, and the publicity required here to make this public complaint, to effectively show vulnerability about this, if it wasn't a necessary step to stop it. Like, if they could just develop some tools and snap their fingers and Thanos snap the bots away, they would much rather do this and keep the PR bubble around it down. Because this suit makes it look like Twitch has lost control. The fact that they need to expose people that are doing the thing to try to get them to stop, or to try to get other authorities involved to stop them for them, means that Twitch is not the one in charge here. Twitch is not the one, like, in control of this situation. That's a big deal. I don't think right now, like, this article just kind of, you get your bonsai buddy to do. This article just came out today. The discussions have only just kind of started. But I don't think the discussion has really started yet about how big of a deal this actually becomes to have taken this step on Twitch. I really believe that this is both a big deal of admitting, like, effectively they need a little bit of help or a little bit of the universe going their way to stop it, but also, as someone's pointing out in the YouTube chat, it's also to dissuade others. This is, we don't have a strong enough grasp on stopping the bots ourselves that we have to take off-site measures to stop the people making them, but also we need to put our foot down and make a big, you know, legal kerfuffle to make it clear that other people should not get involved. This could go nowhere. Like I said, finding, like, suing these people internationally and stuff probably is going to be difficult or fruitless. But I think there is, I think this is a big deal that really exposes how much of a struggle this has been for Twitch. And I don't say this out of a sense of like, we need to feel sorry for Twitch, or we need to be nicer about this, or how dare those people try to boycott when Twitch is struggling. You should just diversify your... None of that. Like, I think this is more of a, we're going to be dealing with this problem for a while kind of stance that I'm formulating. Like I said, this is all new. It's new to me. It just came out. Like, I'm still processing it myself. But this is the kind of scenario, like, Nintendo will quietly handle ROM hacks and send cease and desists and stop people hacking switches and all sorts of stuff on their own. But it's rare that people end up with like serious prison time for it unless they're doing, or like, you know, it becomes a huge deal unless they're doing like serious bad modding things like that. Like we saw the Switch modders or whatever, they got in a whole lot of trouble. That was because Nintendo could not really stop them in any other way. I think this is a similar kind of thing. So, I don't know. I really think this, to me, reveals how huge of a deal that this is. And I think we're going to be sitting with this for a while. And I think we're going to have some discussions about, like, what it looks like to continue to, like, if you want to continue to maintain Twitch or support Twitch while this continues to go on. And I think that's kind of nerve-wracking. I don't know. It's weird. And I just wanted to add one little bit of clarification here, because I think a lot of people don't get this, but it's not just bots. Like, these aren't just bot accounts. These are people behind it. And I have been, along with a bunch of my community members on Discord, like reporting Twitter accounts and stuff, because the people like, this isn't just bots running rampant on Twitch and bots are everywhere, blah, blah, blah. These are targeted attacks. These are people who are going after these creators, and not just with the bot raids, they are also targeting the creators and doxing them and releasing their information and targeting them everywhere. And while to some that means that it's not Twitch's fault and they can't do anything about it, them being able to run unobstructed on Twitch is what allows them to continue this kind of thing. Like, it's hard to explain, and I know not everyone will agree with me, but this kind of thing effectively being allowed or tolerated or played out here on Twitch is what makes these people the target, not so much just them existing in general. But obviously people are going to do bad stuff everywhere, but just wanted to throw that out there as we wrap back around to some tech topics here. I just want to note a comment in chat. The GoXLR is old, but it's still the best. The GoXLR is not old. I talked about this in my review of the Stream Deck 2, I think. The GoXLR is not old. It's been out for like 2 years. For gear that is not old. Some of the best gear you can get and you should buy are ancient. Some of it older than me. My favorite microphone is older than me in design. It's about the age of my parents, if not older. The SM7B is an ancient design. Gear being out for 2 years is brand new. The idea that gear should be replaced every couple years or every year or else it's old and outdated absolutely drives me nuts. That is not the case. And frankly, the GoXLR is in a better place than it's ever been because of the software updates and the maturity it has gotten and things like that. Gear when it's brand new is really not something you could jump on. Early adopter syndrome is a thing. So I really always have to say something about that when, when people point that out, because that really bothers me. We do have some other topics to talk about as we join here. Going back to, actually, we'll come back to a Twitch topic. Actually, a lot of these are Twitch topics. Well, let's talk about some gaming news. Then we'll come back to Twitch as we wrap up today's stream. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. And thank you for the hype train over on the Twitch. We got some gaming news. There is a rumor about a new Twisted Metal game in development, which is extremely exciting. I love Twisted Metal and would love to see it get some additional love. We got some trailers for a Knights of the Old Republic remake. We got to see more of God of War Ragnarok. We got to see both Spider-Man 2 and a Wolverine game coming from Insomniac, which is insane. The Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, which is just like Uncharted 4 and the DLC, is coming to PC next year, which is wild. And there was a big exploit going around with Titanfall 2. So Titanfall 2 has been the subject of many like attacks and things like that. Same with Titanfall 1 going on. There's supposedly this weird community initiative to get Respawn to release the source code for a failed Titanfall online game overseas so that they can play that instead of Titanfall and all this weird stuff. So they've been targeting the servers for a while, and they even hit the Apex servers at one point, and now there's apparently some sort of there was concern about like a remote control exploit and privilege escalation going on, and Respawn has acknowledged that there is an issue, but they don't believe that it's actually like a serious concern to your own personal security as a player. So we'll see how that plays out, but it's been interesting to see that they've just been targeting all of these games. Like, it's not a very convincing community initiative to be like, let us play your game, but also we're going to take down your game. Wasn't Titanfall Online just Apex? I don't believe so. It was just free-for-all or free-to-play Apex, like Halo Online and Call of Duty Online. Not Apex, free-to-play Titanfall. Now you messed me up. Wasn't it? I get what you're saying, though. I was hoping to see the new neon on cam. Super chat from Maddie. I did show it at the start of the stream. It's more set up for the main desktop camera, but you can see it right there. We got the lovely Stream Professor Neon. Doesn't really work for this angle much, but for my main desktop camera stuff, it will be gold, and we will have a lot more cool neon-y stuff coming very soon. Halo Infinite has another multiplayer preview coming next weekend, so get stoked for that if you're into Halo. Turok is getting a re-release on PlayStation 4 from the folks over at Limited Run Games, and they're also doing Pogs for it. They're bringing back actual licensed Pogs, which is wild. And we have come full circle. I did want to bring up, someone was asking about, so there's a new webcam going around that people have been asking about and talking about. It is $300. It's called the Opal C1, and apparently it's made by engineers formerly of like Google and Apple and all sorts of stuff. I literally only just heard of it a couple days ago. I sent them a review request, but I don't know how legit it is or is going to be, but supposedly it's like really powerful, has a slightly bigger sensor, is going to be 4K. We'll see. I personally have reached the point of being tired of being like misled or lied to by webcams claiming to be the new professional webcam, so I'm going to remain just as skeptical as ever, but I have sent them a review request, and I will try to cover it. To people who are shocked at the $300 price point, you are not going to get a better webcam under $200 or $300. Webcams are misleading in how cheap they are, and they're only so cheap because of how crappy they are. Like, real cameras cost money. So if you want a high quality webcam, you're going to have to pay for it, period. Even if this, whether it's this one or not. To answer those in chat, I am not using Restream to stream. I tried doing that for one of my AFK chat episodes and had a horrible experience and will probably never go back. I am using a plugin for OBS Studio called Multiple RTMP Output, and literally you can just do it straight from OBS itself, which is pretty cool. Answer a question in Twitch chat real quick just as we wrap things up here if you have any final questions about today's topics. Hi, what do you think about Voicemeter Banana plus Stream Deck versus BEACN Mix Create as the ultimate live streaming control, especially for 3 or more submixes? So, yes, you can achieve potentially the solution you want with that kind of setup. Personally, I literally, I refuse to touch Voicemeter myself these days. The camera's probably out of focus because I was just refocusing it for the neon sign, but we can do a little magic like this and bam, it's back in focus. Personally, I don't touch BEACN. I definitely touch BEACN. Well, that came out rude. I don't touch Voicemeter at all, and I really struggle to recommend anyone else do so. Their creators are a-holes, for lack of a better word, who hate their users. The software is very unintuitive and really obnoxious to learn, and more often than not, when I see people messing around with Voicemeter, they're trying to do something they either don't need to do or that they could do easier with other tools, and they just end up making a mess of things, and it doesn't end up working out super well. I'm a hardware guy. Like, it makes more sense to learn, to actually learn hardware and like audio routing physically. Like people. So this is gonna sound contradictory because my biggest problem with Voicemeter is that they do all this crap to try to emulate physical mixer setups with Voicemeter, which doesn't make sense. Digital software is not physical controls, and limiting it to these obscure names and organizations just doesn't make sense. But also, like, in order to truly understand audio routing, I think you need to actually experiment with physical audio routing. And a lot of people don't, and then get really confused with how things work. So I'm not a fan of Voicemeter at all. I prefer the much more simpler methods: Elgato Sound Capture, Elgato Wavelength, Dante. There's some other options out there. But frankly, like, I don't believe most people who use Voicemeter for single PC setups need Voicemeter at all. You shouldn't be listening to music that your stream doesn't hear. I will die on this hill. You should not be doing it. And submixing is fairly easy to do when just by setting it up in OBS. Like, you can control the volume of your devices in OBS, do test recordings, and you're mostly fine. Like, I don't think it's, I don't know. Epos said a super chat about the GB operator. Did I miss a super chat? Anyway, did you check it out by chance? GB operator. Is that the dumper? Did they really call their company Epilogue to go against Analog? Please tell me it's the same people and not another company copying the exact same branding and naming style as Analog. Like, I lose all respect if this is a different company. On the whole, like, I haven't picked this up. I have, hold on, what do I have? Is it in here? Hold on one sec. I have something similar. May not be in this box. I don't know where it is. I have a ROM dumper. Like, you can get cheap ROM dumpers. This one's not super expensive, so I'm not entirely, like, against it. But I don't see, like, I don't know. Being able to use stuff like using the Game Boy camera as a webcam with it is actually pretty cool. That's something I do with the GBA consolizer just for fun. Like, I saw this get released. I remember talking about it a little bit. For $50, like, you can't go wrong. It seems useful. There are other ROM dumpers out there for like $20. I think that's how much I paid for mine. I forgot what it's called. I'm trying to think of what it's called. I'm gonna pull it up off camera here. It was really cheap though. I probably didn't buy it on Amazon. I don't remember where it was. There are other Game Boy ROM dumpers that are just as cheap, if not cheaper. I don't think you necessarily need this one. The idea of playing off the cart and then saving your save back to it is kind of cool, I guess. But if I'm going to play in an emulator, I just want to save it in an emulator. Like, personally for me, playing in an emulator and playing on physical hardware are very different experiences with very different things. And I don't really have any interest personally in crossing between them. However, the part that excites me here is the ability to dump your own homebrew and stuff to it. Because I used to mess around a lot with ROM hacking, and I even owned some ROM hack Game Boy cards. In fact, I probably have one right here. Like, I used to be big in the Pokemon ROM hacking scene back in the early 2000s. And this right here is a ROM hack of a Pokemon game dumped to a cart. So that aspect of it is actually really cool. It's insanely cool. And so I do appreciate that. And I will probably pick this up at some point because I love tinkering with this kind of stuff. Counterfeit cartridge detection is kind of cool for resellers. But the idea of playing off a physical cart on an emulator has just never made sense to me personally. I guess I do see the value though, as I'm giving, like, I like giving my gut reactions to things and then giving a more reasonable reaction. I do see the value if you have your childhood game collection and like you have a bucket of your old childhood Game Boy games, you want to play them, you don't want to play on a tiny Game Boy because honestly they're not fun. It's the reason I have a consolizer, because I want to play it on a bigger screen. And you don't want to buy, or you don't want to go buy a fragile old Game Boy. You could play it on the computer, still have your old save files if the batteries didn't die. A lot of them have. Please replace them. And you can keep it going. That's pretty cool. And if you don't already have a ROM dumper, there's nothing wrong with buying this one either. So I will probably order this. Like, I have a ROM dumper, but yeah, this one, as you said, this one is kind of cute. And it does have some cool features that I do like. And in fact, I may buy a second one just to have the Game Boy camera mounted as a webcam. Because again, that was something I did back in 2018 with the Game Boy consolizer. And this would be a more like easily static solution for it. Although this is more about transferring pictures, so it probably doesn't do video streaming. But yeah. So there's my like gut reaction of why I haven't ever talked about it like on the show and stuff versus what I see of the value of it is, I guess. As they kind of cross here. All right. Thank you so much for the super chat. Santa Claus. Okay. Santa's coming in with the super chats. Love your channel and all your wonderful info you share. Thank you. Hope everybody has a great, wonderful evening and the rest of your weekend. We do have the finale of the How to Build a Stream Show stream coming next week. We may have a stream theory next week, but I'm thinking I take a week off and try to realign things so that they're not on the same week each week. The stream critique episode will come up, though. Just to throw in a random bit in chat to respond to a Twitch chat that no one will, or not a lot of people agree with. Someone said, playing off physical cards means you or someone else paid the license fee and no infringement occurred. I personally don't believe that matters. I'm not necessarily a huge advocate for piracy, especially these days. Like, I used to be more into that. I don't really believe that matters or agrees. I don't think it makes sense to assign value to used purchases of software. That makes no sense to me. If I buy abandonware or a physical cartridge of a game that came out 20 years ago from another person, not a single dollar that I spent on this game goes to the company that made it. Goes to the publisher that produced it and put their money behind it, not to the developers that put their work in on it. Not a single dollar I pay goes to it. So on like a morality and practicality level, there is no difference other than if you want to get into more abstract things like e-waste or contributing to your local economy or something like that. There is no tangible advantage to me buying a used piece of software versus using a free copy. And if anything, the cartridges become fragile, they die over time, you want to preserve them, you got to replace the batteries, whatever. It makes more sense. Like, even if you do buy a physical cart, you should still probably be playing the digital copy. And what's the difference between, like, downloading a ROM of a game? Like, if I bought this game, whatever game, if I bought this game when it came out 10 years ago and I sold it off or don't have it anymore or lost it, broke it, whatever, and go download a ROM of it, how is that different than buying a used copy from someone else? Because I already paid for the license, just not the license of the exact unit I'm using. That kind of stuff really bothers me. Like, there's a much bigger discussion to be had as we get into some real awkward like legal battles when it comes to game preservation and all that stuff. But I firmly stand on the hill of buying used software is morally no better than just using it for free once it's abandonware. Well, like, I guess used software of new software isn't really better either, but like, I don't know. It's a really tough discussion, but I really like, I don't like it. I don't know. That's a weird way to end the show, but that's all the time we have for today. Especially for games that like scale up in pricing. Actually, I do want to continue this for just a second because someone had asked what I thought about retro game prices going down. Because currently, if you are unaware, the retro game collecting scene is currently getting destroyed. Young people don't understand this. They never had physical copies. I had physical copies for everything. I live in a sea of physical copies. I try to only buy physical copies. Anyway, someone was asking what I thought about prices. If you're unaware, the retro game collecting scene is currently effectively being like destroyed because of some fraud and manipulation. There is a grading service that is combined with investors, that is combined with an auction house that are literally like just flipping their own auctions over and over to give a false context of the history of pricing of retro games so that they can get their fake graded games worth more and more, and telling everyone that copies of Super Mario Brothers or something are worth thousands and thousands of dollars so that they can flip that money and then sell it and bail out. This is affecting the used retro game market in all manners of ways, and there isn't a whole lot of it's bad right now. I don't see any way that it's easily going to come down either, because this is kind of like a runaway train that everyone's getting hyped on and the bubble's building and whatever, and it may pop eventually, but the rich people may have bought up all the stock, or people are destroying stock so there's less competition. People are forcing other people to raise the prices of their listings. Like, there are going to be long-term consequences of this. No one should be expected to pay $200 for a copy of a game that came out 20 years ago for $40 that you just want to play. That's not morally better. Giving some scam artists 4 times the upcharge for a game that none of that money is going to the creator of the game. Piracy is a much more moral solution in that regard. So, like I said, huge weird discussion, a lot of like nuance and contradictions involved with it. And yes, if you missed it, go check out Carl Jopp's video on it. It was phenomenal. I guess I'll link it in chat real quick as we wrap up, and then I really got to bounce. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, everyone. I know this was a less advertised in advanced stream, but you all came and supported regardless. Thank you to those of you who rated and followed over on Twitch. And maybe I'll see you this weekend for a Pokemon stream. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. See ya!